The serial killer is widely agreed to be the weakest or second weakest solo killer in Wolvesville. But what about the strongest? If you ask that question, we can get a plethora of answers depending on who you ask. Today you will get my answer. I will also show you how the community thinks of it, as they made their own tier list not too long ago. As of writing, there are 14 solo killers that I consider. Anything that is in the serial killer, Arsonist, Corruptor or Bandit tree goes, as well as the tested Shapeshifter, but small spoiler, it's not on this list. Number 10. Siren. We kicked the list off with the Siren, but if I made this video only a couple weeks later, this could very well get a much higher spot. As things stand right now in the death vote, the Siren might be buffed to the point that it automatically wins when everyone alive is entranced, meaning you can in theory win with 3 werewolves alive and all villagers being dead. Before that change though, basically right now, the Siren's upside is being able to bypass protection and select 3 players at night, and next night you get the option to kill at most 2 of these. This is like Arsonist but much more flexible, but on the long term, Arsonist can get a higher kill per night ratio, and also Arsonist does not notify the players who are entranced and the Siren does. The tag ability also exists, but that really just changes the game for everyone who is not Siren and doesn't benefit the Siren when it comes to winning chance, except for if it's instigated, but I'm not gonna count that. And since chance to win is how I define strength here, it has no impact on its placement. Number 9. Blight. The Blight is the newest solo killer in Wolvesville, at least of those that is also fully released, and can infect a player every night and kill any amount of infected players during the discussion phase. If an informer or role revealer interacts with an infected player, they also get infected, as you can see in this clip. Since players who get infected get notified about it, they can say that they are infected, which is kind of a double-edged sword if you ask me. In most lobbies, this is done by those infected and they use it as a way to warn informers to not check them. But of course, when you play with good werewolves or informers ignore that info, then you might make yourself more suspicious by saying you are infected. After all, a werewolf claiming to be infected gives them a very good reason not to be checked and thus stay under the radar for longer. What helps this role is that the Blight gets to choose which players to kill exactly, meaning it can infect 1 or 2 scapegoats, hope an informer checks them and then quickly kill that informer without killing the scapegoats, which means that the Blight doesn't give himself away but can still get some kills through spreading. This is honestly a really serious pro for this role in comparison to, let's say, Arsonist or Illusionist, but I can't help myself and think that it's still weaker than what comes next, also because the kills do sometimes take place quite slowly. This role would be a lot stronger if any ability or interaction on the infected player would count, so also shooting, protecting, jailing, etc., but that's simply not the case. Number 8. Corruptor. The Corruptor is already the same role since 2019 and its strength has never really changed. It's arguably a slow killer since you select at night and the kill takes place at the end of the voting phase. The role of the killed player is hidden, which makes it stronger in my eyes than, let's say, the Blight, but as Corruptor you don't see the hidden role yourself, otherwise you could actually use the claim space much easier, but now you have to be somewhat good at the game in order to make use of that advantage. Hidden roles themselves just don't confuse players that much for that reason, but they also make players non-revivable, and that is a game changer sometimes. When you have 4 people hidden and there is evils amongst them, like 1 or 2, then the confusion really starts to kick in, especially in medium or low quality lobbies. A few roles do not work well with the Corruptor, such as the Junior Werewolf and Loudmouth, because when they die, they can just still refuse someone or tag someone and the system message will just say their role. But this is really a small minority of roles that I am not gonna consider for putting this down. One point I want to make before we move on is that you could put this role above Illusionist, since the Corruptor just shuts someone up as soon as the day starts, whereas the Illu, you have to kill quicker than the target can say something important in the chat in case you are about to kill an informer with crucial information. But equally so, players that get corrupted can just flee the game if they really can't sit it out or want to annoy you. Number 7. Illusionist. It should come as no surprise that Illusionist finishes very close to the Corruptor. It is slightly stronger in my eyes as the killing happens quicker and you can use the disguising as a strategy, but the Corruptor can make you SHUT UP! Ironically, I completely suck at the Illusionist, but I still put it above Corruptor. Unlike the viewers of this stream though, I'm not going to pretend it's a whole tier stronger than the Corruptor, that's just... Number 6. Arsonist. Arsonist only 6th, you may ask? Sounds like a literal hot take. If you look at pure potential, this should be higher, but I want to insert a bit of realism here too. If not, the bomber should be moved up too, since it can bypass protection as well, as that it gets 1.5 a kill per night, and if we are going off ideal situations, then you bomb the Vigilante, the Seer and the Medium in night 1 and they are all down by night 2. Equally with the Arsonist, you need to either wait out night 1 or you need luck on your side that your night 1 douses are gonna be good kills. Arsonist is not a very flexible role, it only has the bypassing going for it, like the whole tree minus the Black Alchemist potion, and Arsonist has the highest potential kill rate of any role in the game, which it only fully realizes by dousing 8 people and killing in night 5, and let's be real, like how often are you gonna see 8 people getting killed in night 5? Like the chance of one of them at least dying is pretty high, and Arsonists don't make it all the time to night 5 either. Even when you reach that, you have an impressive or maybe not so impressive 1.6 kills per night ratio, which is only 0.1 higher than the bomber and the alchemists are going to reach ever, so it's not even that much of a difference. The Arsonist does get really strong though when it appears as a random killer, I have to give it that, but it also goes for the Illusionist, any Converter, and our next role, which is number 5, Cannibal. Yes, the Cannibal is higher than the Arsonist on my list of the top 10 strongest killers. Put me on a pillory. The bypassing, or lack of it, is a huge flaw when comparing to the Arsonist, and so is the long-term kill rate, but I would gladly argue that its flexibility heavily outweighs that. The Arsonist has a big risk of dousing players that get killed, either by villagers or by werewolves, and if there's important development, such as the gunner using a first bullet and there not being much protection, the Arsonist has to first douse that gunner, or they have to be lucky and already have that gunner doused, and only the night after that it can kill the gunner, when it has already used the second bullet. With Cannibal, you're simply able to act right away. Of course, protection might be an issue, but at least you get the chance to act. It also helps with balancing the game when the village has a terrible day. As Cannibal, you can immediately start killing werewolves to avoid being outnumbered, whereas the Arsonist needs time to do it, and you might not have the time when there's like 4 werewolves and 4 villagers and you. But there is more when we compare it to non-Arsonist related roles as well. Saving up kills can be really useful when there is a lot of death detection roles in the game, like Mortician, Spirit Seer and Sheriff, but also against Tough Guy it is really a good role because you can just wait out for the werewolves to trigger the Tough Guy. My stats can back up my take. In the modern age I have a 50% win rate with the Cannibal, and if we combine it with the legacy stats, it is still 33%. That is way higher, I can tell you, than any other solo role in my stats. That is not a Converter, of course. Number 4. Alchemist. Despite my stats somewhat lacking for the Alchemist, I cannot think otherwise than, hey, that potion has a weird shade of red. Oh, it's the subscribe potion. That means I have to subscribe to hypostein if I don't want to die by the Alchemist. Alright, seriously though, let's try to reach 7k before May 5th. That's Liberation Day in my country, and if we can pull that off, then this Junior Werewolf plushie can be liberated from my shelves and potentially be yours. For the Alchemist, it is in my opinion the strongest non-converter solo killer. It has the bypassing of Arsonist, Bomber and Siren with its red potion, which is slow, yes, since you need to give people 2 red potions, so it's gonna take like 2 days. But it also has the black potion, which, yes, belongs to the weakest killing ability since it kills at the start of the falling phase only and it does not bypass protection, but the combination of the two makes it so good. If you need to relatively quickly get rid of powerful rolls, then you can use the black potion, and for long-term targets, confusion or just flexibility in the late game, the red potion has you covered. This is one of the few roles that can claim to be targeted by the role they play. For instance, you can give out only 1 potion and claim that you got a potion too. This is something you can also do with Blight, Siren and Corruptor to some extent, but it's a really nice trick that some players actually fall for. Number 3. Zombie.
Huh?
Why is this not in first? Well, you see, my view on the zombie has slowly shifted. Not completely, as it is still in the top 3 strongest solos obviously, and if I were to make a tier list, it's still in the S tier for strength, along with number 1 and 2 and not with the Alchemist. The DK mechanic doesn't do much when it comes to weakening it, but the fact that zombies die when biting werewolves definitely helps, as well as the slow conversion times, which has pretty much always been the case. Since zombies are essentially of no help to the werewolves, you have an extra team hunting you down early, and players on your team are basically a weaker villager as they are without any useful ability apart from spreading. And of course spreading is a really important ability, but the fact that you cannot have any bullets or info on your team anymore is definitely a big difference between zombie and sect. Also, since zombies don't keep their original role, it is quite easy to hunt them down. The change in behavior, the lack of action when needed are all massive red flags of who is turned and who is not. If the zombie do make it to day 4, they have a really good chance to win, I'd say. But making it to day 4 isn't that easy for a zombie anymore. It's still easier than any of the regular killers of course, but I am convinced there are better roles at this, such as number 2, Sect Leader. In the tier list stream, the community was quite decided on having Sect Leader below Zombie, and for me, they are really close actually. I'm giving an edge to the Sect Leader purely because it gets help from members day 1 in most cases. The secret messages at day are a huge tool to communicate, and let's not forget about sected villagers still having their role, which can not only benefit you directly, but also keeps them more trusted amongst the villagers. The right Sect Leader can dominate a game early on, and there is only one flaw of this role, namely its vulnerability. Usually it's not the villagers that are the main threat, unless you get found super early, then of course then they are gonna get rid of you ASAP, but rather the werewolves with a junior tech, a split wolf, a shadow wolf, or any of those advanced roles like a berserk or the toxic wolf. They can just be like a one-man force killing you. Let me know what you think, but for now I'm giving a slight edge to the Sect Leader over the zombie, but I can totally see it changing like next day.
12 o'clock midnight.
But number 1, there can only be one role left, it's the almighty Bomber. No, of course not, it's the Bandit, and again, it's close. The Bandit will not have the same quantity of living players as its advanced roles, but the fact that you get a new accomplice when yours dies, that makes it into this debate. The killing is a good ability, but it's better to recruit players than to simply get rid of them. Of course, that's obvious. So why is it then here? Well, unlike the Sect Leader and the zombie, you are not that vulnerable. Werewolves cannot simply kill you during the night, and even if they kill you with a tag or overpower you and the village in the shadows, you still have your accomplice. I see that there are arguments that bandits are weak because they don't control who kills but the accomplice does, but I'd like to argue that this has its ups and downs as well. Of course, it is a down if either you or that accomplice is involved in the cup or the NC team. They might make different choices based off that, as well as when the accomplice is just a jerk and doesn't know how to play. But equally so, sometimes you might be the jerk compared to the accomplice, and then the accomplice actually carries your game because they make the better choices. But now it's up to you. Did I make the better choices, or was it the community that made this tier list? Are you upset that the Bomber did not take spot 1? Alright, see you later, and don't be a traitor, goodbye.